All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Fly. This time we're in X-Plane with the default Cessna 172 with the SimCoders Reality Expansion Pack. We're going to be taking a look at the SimCoders Reality Expansion Pack for the Cessna 172 in X-Plane 11. I'm parked at Central Illinois Regional Airport in Bloomington, Illinois, not to be confused with Bloomington, Indiana. And I'm parked at the Synergy Flight Center on the ramp here. As you can see, with all SimCoders Reality Expansion Packs, the airplane starts with the tie-downs and covers in. You can remove them all in one fell swoop by just going to the Toggle Static Elements option, or you can do an actual walk-around like a real pilot would. We will do that, but first let's head over to the Mass and Balance page and make sure we are loaded up. I've got 220 and 180 in the front seats, no one in the back, 50 pounds of baggage in the front baggage compartment, and as many Cessna 172 pilots do, I filled it to the tabs, about 18 gallons on each side. All right, and that puts us inside the loading envelope. Now, for this flight, I thought since the 172 is the most popular trainer aircraft in the world, it might be fun to do a kind of a student pilot checkout type thing. Just take off from Sierra Airport, fly out to a practice area, do some air work, typical of a student pilot, stalls, steep turns, slow flight, that sort of thing, and then enter the pattern and make a normal landing. So we'll give that a try. It's been a little while since I've done something like that, so I'm not going to vouch as to how good I will be, especially in the sim, but we'll give it a try. Let's start with the walk around. All right, so let's hit the walk around button and let's do the walk around. So fuel shutoff valve is on, fuel selector on both static and alternate static air. Somehow that got turned on. Let's turn that off. And trim controls neutral. Baggage door is painted on. Elevator control surfaces, that's working. Check the rudder, that's working. Toggle the tie down. And check the ELT antenna. Verify the flaps are secure. Check the aileron. Toggle the tie down. Obviously, this is a much more abbreviated pre-flight than what you would do in real life. 18 gallons of gas, and it's blue. That's the right color. Toggle the chocks. Check tire condition. Check the oil quantity and color. Looks good. Toggle the engine cover. Check the tire. Fuel 18 gallons in blue. Toggle the pitot tube cover, and we're not going to bother with a probe temperature check. Toggle the wing tie down. Verify the aileron works and the flaps are secure. Toggle the chocks, check the tires. And that is a very abbreviated Cessna 172 pre-flight. So with everything loaded up and the pre-flight completed, we can go to the knee board and do the engine start checklist. As with all Reality Expansion Pack airplanes, we've got normal operations, emergency procedures, and references. The references include takeoff performance, cruise performance at various altitudes, landing performance. Heading over to the engine start procedure, we'll just verify seatbelts and shoulder harnesses fastened. Brakes are set. Fuel selectors on both. Fuel shutoff valve is in. Circuit breakers are all in. Beacon on. Master on. Started up a 172 many times in my life. This is all very familiar to me. We'll crack the throttle. Make sure the mixture is idle cutoff. And then we will run the fuel pump, bring the mixture rich until we see 3 to 5 gallons, and then back to lean. And the engine's primed. In real life, the fuel pump is quite loud. I'm not sure why you can't hear it now, but in real life, it's quite loud. All right. Now the trick is to roll the engine to start, and once you hear the engine catch smoothly, bring the mixture full rich. So mixture's idle cutoff now. We're going to roll it to start. Catches, mixture full rich. There we go, and that's a good start. We're going to set 1,000 RPM, and we're going to lean the mixture a bit and verify that the oil pressure is up. Over to the next page, after engine start, mixture's leaned, flaps will retract, avionics on, and instruments set. So, taking a look at the weather right now, altimeter's 3016 and winds are 220 at 11. So let's set 3016 on the altimeter. Okay, so as is often the case, in real life at Bloomington Airport, we're going to taxi to runway 20 at the runway 29 intersection, and we'll do an intersection takeoff. That's often what they have the airplanes from Synergy do. So let's go ahead and do our taxi checklist. So I'll bring up the kneeboard again. We'll kill the parking brake. We should start moving forward, and we'll do a quick brake check. Brakes work. And then we'll do a flight instrument check with this right turn here. Just verify heading indicator, turn coordinator, and ball, and standby compass. All turn how we expect. Alright, we are approaching runway 20 at intersection Echo, which again is where often they tell the 172s and other small aircrafts to depart when using runway 20. We're going to stop at the hold short line and do our run up here, so let's bring the checklist back up. So, brake set, flight controls free. We'll check on the left, and the right, and the back. There we go, check the rudder. Everything looks good. Flight instruments set, airspeed indicator, attitude indicator, altimeter, turn coordinator, and we'll check heading against the magnetic compass. This does not automatically slave, so you will have to keep it synced. And you can see it's already off. We're at heading 115, it looks like, or sorry, 105. So we've got to sync this already, and we're going to have to check it periodically in flight. Vertical speed indicator, that's all good. We will go back to the checklist now. Elevator trim, set for takeoff. Mixture rich. Autopilot is disconnected. Throttle 1800 RPM. Kind of a bouncy tachometer. And then ammeter, we'll check it with load, put the landing light and the pitot heat on, and just verify that the ammeter does show a charge, or it doesn't show a discharge at least. That looks good. Engine instruments, just verify everything's in the green. Oil temperature and pressure, fuel flow, vacuum. And magnetos, we'll check. We're looking for 50 RPM difference and 125 RPM drop. So on the left, it's about 100 RPM drop. And then on the right, also about 115 RPM drop. So we are good. We'll do an idle check of the throttle. Let's verify it runs smoothly in idle, which it does. Back up to 1000 RPM. Reeling the mixture. Flaps, we won't use flaps for takeoff. And that's it. Next up is the takeoff checklist. Okay, so for this departure, like I said, we're just going to proceed northbound to a practice area at 5,000 feet, and there we will do some basic air work. So let's take the runway, and we'll do mixture, flaps, lights, landing and strobe lights, trim, transponder, put it on altitude mode, doors and windows, just verify that windows and doors are all locked. We'll check final, final's clear. And takeoff is really straightforward in the 172. There's not a lot to think about. Pretty much just go full power. And verify that the RPM shows full power. RPM gauge shows full power. Engine gauge is in the green, airspeed alive. Then we just rotate at about 55 knots. And that's all there is to it. RPM's a little low. I'm not sure why it's showing 2500. It should be showing 2700 at full power. We'll check that out once we're back on the ground. But it seems to have no problem climbing. Best rate of climb VY is about 75 knots, so I'm going to let the needle come up to 75 knots. And let's start a right crosswind now. Not really much to do in the climb. In fact, I don't think there's, the checklist just goes from takeoff right to before landing. In the real 172, there are some, climb and cruise checklist items to do, but not a lot. Pretty much just monitoring the engine instruments. When you're in cruise, you have to lean the mixture, but other than that, there's not much else to do. All right, we're climbing through 3,000 now, so we can bring the mixture back a touch to increase engine power. And just do it until the RPM gauge reaches its maximum right about there. So again, this RPM gauge definitely needs calibration, and we'll take a look at the maintenance window once we get on the ground. In the real 172, you definitely need right rudder in the climb to keep the ball centered. However, I'm not using much, if any, rudder at all, and the ball looks almost centered to me. I think in order to center it, I only need just a little touch of right rudder. Not sure how realistic that is, but I remember needing more right rudder to climb in the 172. Alright, we are coming up on 5,000 feet. Normally at this point I'd run the cruise checklist, which would include reducing power, leaning the mixture. We're not going to lean the mixture just yet because we're not going to really cruise. We're going to be doing some maneuvering and changing altitudes. So I'm just going to leave the mixture where it is, leaned a little bit. And we'll bring the throttle down to 2,300 RPM for now. Stabilized at 5,000 feet. And we're going to start our air work. Now, as is always the case when doing air work, you want to start with clearing turns. So we'll start with a 90-degree clearing turn to the left. Just making sure to scan the area for any other student pilots. Clearing turn itself is also a test of your ability to just maintain altitude in a turn. And then another 90-degree clearing turn to the right, while continuing to scan for other aircraft above, below, and to the side. Alright, let's do some basic air work. We'll start with steep turns. 45-degree banked steep turn to the left. That's private pilot standards. We're clear on the left side. So we'll bank it over to 45 degrees, increase power and trim, and then just use bank angle to control altitude while continuing to scan the area for traffic. I got a warning saying that my power setting was harmful for the engine. It was complaining that the mixture wasn't rich enough. Obviously you don't get that warning in real life, so it's handy to get it in the Reality Expansion Pack in the sim. And so I just increased my mixture to full, which is something I should have done before maneuvers anyway. Kind of working my 45-degree bank here. It's kind of varying a bit, but I'm doing the best I can. Got to sight my lake, there it is. And we roll out. Now in real life we'd be feeling ourselves hitting our own wake at this point if we'd done a good job. Alright, let's do slow flight now, so I'm going to bring the power back. And I'm going to turn back towards the airport as well. And as the power comes back, I'm going to allow myself to descend to 5,000 feet, bring in flaps 1 notch at a time, and work my trim to maintain a controlled rate of descent. And flaps full. And now we are fully dirty, and we're established at 5,000. Current PTS standards say slow flight is prior to the first sign of stall. That includes a stall warning horn. But I like to have a steady stall warning horn because it tells me that I'm really truly in slow flight. Like right now, like I want to make sure that I'm on the backside of the power curve, which I definitely am right now. We'll do a gentle turn to the left here. All turns in slow flight are 10 degrees of bank or less. Steady stall warning horn. Again, that's not proper PTS standards, ACS standards today, but it's what I like to do. And my rudder work is a little sloppy. Let's go to the right, clear the area, and turn to the right, trying to keep the ball centered this time. Alright, let's transition to a power off stall. So we're going to go throttle idle. There's the stall, nose down, full power, flaps 20. Bring the nose up. Positive rate. Let's start bringing the flaps up in increments and maintain best rate of climb. Alright, and that's recovery from a power off stall. That is a good demonstration of some airwork in the Cessna 172. Let's bring the power out and start heading back to runway 20. And we'll land just like they do in real life at Bloomington. We'll land runway 20, hold short of Echo, and then we will take Echo back to Synergy Flight Center. No descent checklist for the Reality Expansion Pack. However, the real descent checklist has you just verifying your mixture, power settings, some other things, landing light. That would be a good time to cross-check our heading indicator as well. I'm showing about 135. So there we go. Time to do a GUMPS check. Gas, undercarriage mixture, propellers, seatbelts, switches, and systems. Everything looks good to land. First notch of flap speed is 110. We're below it, so I'm going to bring flaps 10 in. That'll help us slow down to the wide arc. Check final. Final's clear. Kind of make a very gradual turn onto runway 20 final approach. Okay, we're dropping below the wide arc. We can go flaps full. We'll bring it down in increments. And working the trim to maintain nose position. Okay, as you can see, we're in a slight crab because of the crosswind. We're going to turn this crab into a slip. That's the inner marker. And the slip has us aligned with the runway. And we're controlling our drift with aileron. We're going to roll forward to Echo now, come off the runway and do our after landing checklist. Alright, we'll come to a stop here. After landing, lights, landing and strobe lights off. Transponder will leave in altitude mode, flaps up, and trim reset for takeoff, and we'll also relean the mixture. Alright, let's taxi back to Synergy. Alright, we're going to pretend we're getting marshaled. It's parked next to this Piaggio here. And we'll just bring the aircraft to a stop, reduce throttle to 1,000 RPM, run the shutdown checklist, throttle idle. We can also do a magneto grounding check like it says. It's pretty simple. You just set the mags to off, verify the engine stops, and then back to both. Just to make sure that there isn't a mag that's grounded out that would be hot even after we shut off the engine. With that done, we can then turn off the avionics, both buses, move the mixture to cutoff, which will stop the engine. And then we can turn off the beacon, master alternator, and magnetos. And we are done. So the next thing we should do, since this is simulated in the Reality Expansion Pack, is we should put in all of our covers. So we will go back to the walk-around check and we will run the post-flight. And so we toggle the pitot tube cover, toggle the tie-downs, toggle the tie-downs, toggle the chocks, toggle the engine cover, toggle the tie-downs, toggle the chocks, and we're done. Alright, so that's a very quick flight in the Cessna 172 with the SimCoders Reality Expansion Pack in X-Plane 11. Before I go, I do want to show you, as in the last video I made, the maintenance report, which is where you can go to get the maintenance status of your aircraft, fix things, and customize it. So on the first page, we have the engine status, including total time and oil. You can change your spark plugs between massive and fine wire. On the second page, we have engine upgrades. You can use factory or tuned injectors, and you can use factory or tuned exhausts. I don't much see the point in using tuned injectors because we don't have a 4-point CHT and EGT gauge, so it's not like we can really run lean of peak anyway, so I just use the factory injectors. However, I do use the tuned exhausts because I see a lot of flight schools using tuned exhausts in their 172, and it gives you back about 10 more horsepower. On page 3, we have preheating tools. If you've ever read Mike Bush, you know he recommends not starting an engine below 40 degrees Fahrenheit without preheat. So fortunately, you do have a preheater, and you can start it and make sure that your CHTs are hot enough before you start your engine. And then electrical system, where you can check the status of your battery. Avionics, where you can check the status of your avionic equipment. And the instruments page where you can check the status of your instruments. Now, you'll notice that every instrument in this aircraft needs either a small caging or calibration, and that's because I do have it worn. You can wear the aircraft to different states, including brand new, privately owned, and flying club, which is, I'm assuming, pretty worn. This is privately owned new, which already needs definitely some calibration. If you want to fix individual instruments, all you have to do is click the calibrate button and that instrument is fixed. Likewise, you can learn the status of your landing gear, tires, braking system, and you can use the economy system, which again I haven't tried. Anyway, that about covers it for the Cessna 172 SimCoders Reality Expansion Pack and X-Plane 11. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. If you enjoy this video, please see my other X-Plane and Prepared tutorials on my YouTube channel.